7 days away from the start of the SMITE World Championships. I can't believe we hit single digits on days until Worlds. It just feels like last week, and even further than that, we were just talking about like, oh man, it's like a month, it's like 2 months away. Now it's right around the corner. So make sure that you are attending on the 12th to the 14th. Well, why are we hyping things up? Because the schedule is now out. So if you want to check out the schedule for the SWC, make sure to go over on Twitter or tune in right now so you can see what all is going to be going on during the event. We'll kick things off all the way over on Friday for our event there. Make sure you tune in to start out with the red carpet. We'll have our annual keynote in the opening ceremony, and then our 4 quarterfinals to kick out on Friday. Saturday, we'll have our semifinals, plus the Year 11 update show and the cosplay showcase. And then over on Sunday, the Build a God panel, the Year 11 creator show match, a to-be-announced event. So make sure you're tuning in to find out what that might be. And then the grand finals will crown our Season 10 World Champion here for the SMITE Pro League in Season X of the event. Again, all of that starting on Friday, January 12th, which is only 1 week away. Make sure you go over and check out on social media, take a screenshot of the schedule so you don't forget it, but it'll be there available to you over on social media. It's going to be a great time. I'm very excited. I can't believe we are now, again, only a week away from SWC, Charlie. It just feels like yesterday we were talking months away. Oh, don't worry about it. It'll get there eventually. Well, it's almost here now, man.
Are we in eventually? That is where we're at now.
We're no longer in eventually. We're in like it's here, bro.
And that's a scary thought, but also very exciting, of course, because this is what we're all building up to, right? This is what all these great games, all these teams are trying to get to. We're already guaranteed. We don't have to play anyone.
Yeah, we don't got to do anything.
We just get to go. We're going to talk about the games. You're going to see us there. But these teams, they still earn their spot.
Yeah, and for a couple of these teams in our next 2 sets, they're going to be done. It's going to be the end of the road because now we're in elimination matches for these 2 teams. Best of 3s for our next 2 matches that are going to be coming up there. I mean, between SMITE Storm and Gilded Gladiators, one of these teams, it's going to be the end of the road for these guys. And then we move later on, we're going to have an SPL team guaranteed eliminated. We can take a look at the bracket for over on the side of Group B. And that's what I was alluding to with the 2 SPL teams where only one of them is going to at least be guaranteed going home immediately. Camelot Kings and Eldritch Hounds, an elimination match at the end of our day, which means on the opposite, the inverse of that top match there, that best of 5, guaranteed SCC team. Will it be the EU number 2 seed in the Solar Scares, or will it be the number 1 Callan Wardens out of NA? To be determined. Make sure you're tuning in tomorrow for those qualifying matches. Tomorrow and Sunday will all be best of 5s to qualify up to the SWC, where the last 2 matchups today will be those best of 3 eliminations. We take over to Group B, which is the group that we're now currently in. Highland Ravens and Hex Mambo will square off again tomorrow for that first chance to qualify up to the SWC. But one team is going home in this matchup right here, right now, with the XIBALBA Storm and the Gilded Gladiators. Gladiators fell 2-0 to Hex Mambo yesterday, and now had to fight against another SCC team to see if they can still hold their own and see if they can have that second chance to maybe get a qualification up towards Worlds, Strelly.
It's going to be so exciting, man. With so much on the line, I hope to see not only some new and interesting strats, right? Because if you're sticking with the meta and just sticking with what you know, that's all well and good, but sometimes you got to knock these teams off their rhythm, right? This is the last chance you're going to get to play in this season of SMITE, and you better make sure that you leave it all on the table. So I am very excited to see exactly what the Glads, what the Storm, and these teams that we continue to see bring to the table, because this is where you got to leave it all on the table.
One player we haven't really got to see much during this phase because he hasn't been here yet, but is now in studio, is Cxnnahh. We didn't get a chance to talk to him yesterday, and so instead we're going to talk to Cxnnahh now. He's standing by with Frog for our pregame interview.
That's right. I've got Cxnnahh here with me from the Gilded Gladiators. First and foremost, right, I mean, JMac mentioned it, you have not gotten the chance to be in studio throughout the regular season. Now you're here. Unfortunately, not the whole team in studio, right? Jake still has COVID. But how does it feel to be here and be in the booth with the team?
Yeah, it feels really nice, like seeing the boys, not being on ping. It sucks like Jake here, but a lot better, yeah.
No, it's definitely going to improve the vibes, I think, for your matches. Got to talk about the match yesterday, though, right? Unfortunately, you guys did fall 2-0 in sweep yesterday. What do you guys think that you're thinking about from that matchup, trying to improve on for today?
I think that we learn we need to sometimes take a step back and think about what we're doing. Like sometimes we walk into objectives or sieges without a clear plan. And yeah, I think we've got enough, a lot of stuff that we've improved on. So I think we're confident we're still going to qualify.
Yeah, I'm definitely. Confidence is important. Good that you're feeling good going into the Storm. Have you guys done any specific prep into the Storm? Obviously, they played yesterday, fell 2-0. Did you guys get a chance to look at that set and break down how you want to draft and play into them?
I'll be honest, I haven't really been paying attention to any SCC, so I don't really have a clue, but yeah.
Nice. Feeling good. Confidence is important. Good luck in your set today, and we'll throw it back to the desk.
Well, I hope they got a chance to watch some of the matches yesterday because they're going to need up against the SMITE Storm. This is a dangerous team to play against, especially if you're not really prepared. And I think specifically, I think the drafts is going to be the most important thing for really these two teams, and specifically for the Gladiators against the Storm, because the Storm is playing a lot of picks that the Gladiators aren't really used to. The Ratatoskr is not typically something that Ratmilk will go to on the opposite side, though it is one that is a preferred pick, so it's good to take that one away. But we've seen so much Thor coming to the opposite side, and I think kind of really breaks it down well is sometimes the Gladiators kind of get in their head a little bit. They get a little overzealous and say, okay, well, we can take this fight, and don't necessarily maybe have all the information around them. Or in cases that we saw in a lot of sieges, and probably the biggest thing I'd like to see improvement on in today's set specifically, and this one more crucially than ever, is the communication difference. It felt like when we listened into the Gladiators yesterday, it was just Kyrmi talking, and it wasn't like Kyrmi was talking over a whole lot of people and saying a whole lot of information quick. It was a lot of, guys, he's behind us. Guys, don't split up. So I want to see more communication from this team because I think that can go a long way against a team like the Storm.
Right, but we did hear Khan, and he said, you know, we know what we need to improve on. We've made some adjustments. These are kind of the things I'm looking for during an interview after a loss like that yesterday, where you've made the changes. You can't just go through the motions and hope that you're going to come out on the other side. You do have to put in the work, put in the man hours, and I like that Kana not only had that confidence to say, hey, we fixed some things, but said we're confident that we're going to qualify. That's something that you have to look to as well. You can't come in here going, oh boy, we're in the SEC team, we're real scared of them. You know, you should have that level. Not, you know, there's a difference between confidence and still respecting your opponents, but I think the Glads should come in here with their heads held high, right?
Yeah, I think confidence is key, but also, as you said, making sure that there is still that level of respect. So, you know, we may not have watched their stuff, but we know what these guys are capable of. I mean, they made it all the way here to this stage. I mean, you even look at maybe some of the path that the Storm had taken to get here. I mentioned it with, you know, with the Callan Wardens in the previous set when I was on the desk with Frog. These were not the number 1 and 2 seed teams from North America's, you know, SCC. They were not the number 1. They weren't the 2. They were even 3rd or 4th place. These were the 5th and 6th seed teams going into that event. And they beat out, you know, some of the biggest names that SMITE has had over that in the SCC. I mean, they knocked out Aquarius and Sanford Soccer's team to be able to get here. So, I mean, this is a team that is not to be trifled with. You really do have to put some respect towards the names, and I really think the duo combo of Ratmilk and GIobe. Also, this play was just absolutely silly, by the way, I have to say. That one got me kind of a little giddy when I was watching that one.
Curry and Zap were trolling, bro. There's
but
no way.
Speaking about, you know, the mid lane, Ratmilk and GIobe, these guys have been devastating whenever they are given some of their comfort picks. I think you really got to put some focus towards Ratmilk and keep GIobe off of some of these big hits. The Zeus didn't really do it for me yesterday, but if you can get him Thoth, if you can get him Kukulkan, one of these big hitting mages, these are 2 devastating players on this team to deal with.
No, I tend to agree. The Zeus I was not a big fan of, but Ratmilk on the Thor, Ratmilk on the Rat, you know, on some of these, you know, these global presence jungles that he can actually impact, you know, the left, the right side of the map simultaneously. That worked very well for them, as well as getting Shiπigami a lead. This man, despite going down in their set, was absolutely cooking on the Hachi. I would like to see him, or at least the Storm, try and play through the duo lane just a little bit more, because I think Shiπigami has the ability to just take this game and run with it. If you give him like a level lead, a couple purple buff invades, you know, just presence towards duo lane, they have a lot to offer if Shiπigami gets that small little lead.
Don't want to give Shiπigami an inch because he will take a mile when it comes down to it. We can get ready to jump here, though, into the picks and bans for game number 1. Elimination on the line here between the Gilded Gladiators and XIBALBA Storm. Will it be an SPL team going home first, or will it be one of our SCC squads? We'll have to wait and find out as we continue through. Remember, best of 3 between these 2 teams to see which one moves on, which one goes home. Gilded Gladiators taking that first pick spot over the XIBALBA Storm. And if you're in this first pick spot, and Kyrmi hasn't really kind of shot out to me as much of a Thor player necessarily. I liked what we've seen out of his Ratatoskr. Do you think that Thor is impactful enough? Never mind, I don't have to even finish asking the question. Yes, Thor is impactful enough to ban away from Ratmilk even in first pick. Good call, Shirley. You're so good at this,
I'm
man.
on point today, man. I also think On Her is very impactful. Keep going.
We've seen so little on her this weekend.
Right.
I'm honestly surprised because he was like the talk of the town during playoffs, during the SCC qualifiers. I'm shocked we haven't seen really any of him this
It
weekend.
was Yark. Yeah, Yark got one On Her game, and then I'm pretty sure it was pretty consistently banned out. But either way, yeah, it's one of those things where are you playing through pressure or do you want your late game? getting online early. That's what On Her does, right? He wants to scrap. He wants to just absolutely frag out, use that ultimate to try and kill tanks. Sometimes teams don't want to deal with that, and it seems like the Gilded Gladiators are one of those teams.
No Thor for Ratmilk, no Ganesh or On Her for the dual lane of the Storm. Flip side, a couple of supports banned away, plus in a Wheelish. Leaves open a first pick Maman. I think this might be a first for Kyrmi getting to pilot this god, so we'll get to see what he's got up his sleeve. Or, can't discount the fact that it could even go to Jangaru, who was jungler before coming into the onto this team. But we've also just in general seen Maman go into the mid lane. I believe Dardes kind of premiered the god over in mid, showed just how crazy it is. And then we've seen other teams try and replicate that. But a scary top two on the side of the Storm. Achilles and Kukulkan to round out their first picks.
Yeah, this Cuckoo is very scary as far as I'm concerned. The damage, the game-changing nature that Spirit of the Nine Winds can bring to a team fight cannot be overlooked, as well as this Achilles that has just been very, subpar in lane, not going to be the biggest lane bully in the world, but once you get those rotations, your tanks have to watch out, man. You can get into that threshold way quicker than you would imagine, right? It may catch you off guard. You're like, oh, I'm so fine. I still have my shell. I still have these relics. Doesn't matter. The execute does not care about your shields, man. It'll go right through it, so you have to watch out. So make sure you're paying attention to that fatal strike and that health threshold for the Gilded Gladiators, especially when they're drafting these tanks. But Charon's one that has the mobility. He's got the juke shoes. He has a lot of peel for himself, so he's not going to care too much about that execute.
Charon and Baba Yaga, which now solidifies this Maman, going to be going over into Kyrmi's hands. Something that North America has been really bringing over from the SCC side has been this Thanatos pick. We saw it last set. Nice pop-off game for Slash, a triple kill midway through that second game, and now drafts up for SMITE Storm. This is something that the NASCC was just doing all throughout their qualifiers, these junglers going towards this. So now a double execute
I need
comp.
Ao Kwang support.
No, wait, throw Achilles support and then Ao Kwang solo.
Well, that makes too much sense. We're already committed to the Ao Kwang, or to the Achilles solo here.
Right.
I want Ao Kwang
Ao Kwang support.
Give me
I'm
full
with it.
tank. He can get some slows. Either way, up the executes. And I think that these are two picks that, Maman has had a rough time into this Thanatos pick. That's what we saw last game, right? It was a lot of, silence into Scythe into, I'm going to go up in a hovering death. If you jump inside, I'm taking you way away from your team. You don't want to do that. And I'm just going to try and execute you otherwise. So it can be a bit of a battle who's hitting their abilities. Spoiler, Maman, a lot easier to hit her abilities. But if that Death Scythe and that Soul Reap do connect, Thanatos is going to get the better end of those trades more often than not.
A couple of bans by the Storm towards solo lane, both Nike and Sun Wukong. Taking off the table, Gilded Gladiators. Going to throw at least one support ban. The way of the SMITE Storm in the Sobek, which we saw kind of rise up with the EU SCC players a lot. Felt like ever since, Trix Tank kind of left the scene from over there, he's left that legacy of that god. The Crocodile's really kind of kept its home over there. And an Ares ban as well. Looking at the composition, the Gilded Gladiators don't have too much to worry about with an Ares. They've got ways to deal with it, but maybe just worried about what the SMITE Storm could do with a pick like that. So instead, it will be a Hachiman, a safe hunter, which, seeing that hunters are falling all the way this far down in the priority compared to what they used to be, going into this event, in the qualifiers and in the playoffs. Interesting to see how far the hunters have gone down. So now just waiting on who the support will be for their SMITE Storm. So what would you like to see to kind of round out the Gladiators composition here, Trelly?
And that's a tough one. Just I wouldn't mind like a Rama here, something that's trying to match the late game presence that a Hachiman can bring, because Hachi, one of the most safe. Heimdall is fine as well, but it's like, are you really going to last that long? You need to have that hard carry potential. I think that's something that's been missing. With the Warriors back in solo lane, Kins is a necessity, but still, you want a little bit of crit. The builds that I've been seeing that have the most success are the ones that can shred Fire Giant and tanks, right? Kins and crit, same time. And that's what I was expecting. The Chernobog falling this far in the draft, I am not as big of a supporter as the Cherno as I have been. He used to just command early game. The late game he absolutely owned. Through all stages, this Chernobog had it. But now, teams are realizing, instead of chasing this guy around when he can just fly around the map, let's just fight away from the Cherno. And if he flies in, he has to fly to one of us. Let's all group up on wherever he lands and try and get our damage off. Cuckoo does it very well. You're going to land in a tornado and probably take a Zephyr to the face. That's a great way to deal with this global presence.
We saw it just yesterday when Snoopy goes into Chernobog, dives into mid lane, then finds two people surrounding him, and then dies almost in an instant. You do see a Maui last pick, something that's almost kind of been exclusively reserved for Elion, but Have seen a couple other players dabble with it from the SCC, so we will have to see what Hapn can do on this selection. A bit of non-committal initiation on the side of SMITE Storm with that, and a bit of dive with the Achilles, so you kind of get the best of both worlds. You get a support that can stay back and kind of keep the team alive, and you have a warrior out of the solo lane that can really get there and get those dives. But most importantly, man, how do you even deal with a double execute SMITE Storm have? What tools do the Gladiators have to try and shut that execute comp down?
Aegis. Got you, bro.
Just the Aegis?
No, you're going to have to watch out. You have to body block it for your tanks. That's the real key because, you know, Thanatos, you just got to hit the ult. And if you don't hit it, you know, that's not a problem, but you need Aegis. That's your best way out. For Achilles, you can body block Fatal Strike. You know, if you see Jake getting low, you're like, hey, step in front. You know, I got you, bro. That's how you have to play around it. Not going to be the biggest deal early on, but late game, that threshold starts getting more and more HP, right? It's harder to get someone threshold when they're at like level 5, but at level 20, that HP starts climbing. So I'll be keeping my eyes on Kana and Jake, how they are, you know, handling that HP, how they're using those ultimates just to avoid, you know, getting extremely low. But again, this is my conversation every time we see the Charon, is the engage is never that great, right? The River of Styx takes a while. It is slow. You need to line it up. You need to know where you're fighting in 5 seconds to really hit a massive one unless you're going for the barrel stuff. They don't have that ease of execution. Maman's got a stun, but it's very short range. King Arthur's got a stun, but you got to charge it up, and of course Kana's not going to be a part of the fights that often, so the ease of execution, the engage here for the Gilded Gladiators doesn't look as clean as, say, just Maui hook, right? You can just send those out as much as you want. A nice landfall can easily start off the fight, so I got my eyes on the engage as well late game. That's something that can be, you know, a game changer towards Fire Giant. If you're both just dancing at an even game and then a nice Maui hook or a landfall or a good stun from Achilles, that could just kickstart your fight.
And sometimes easier to play might just be the key to success for some teams. We see that drafted here with the SMITE Storm. Not the easiest of comps to execute out here. The Thanatos is definitely one that you have to have a little bit of extra time on to really get used to, but plenty of ways to kind of support this Thanatos and kind of give him that opportunity. Stun from Achilles, hook pull from the Maui, even a landfall just to pull 2 or 3 people back and find something there. So here's to see how the SMITE Storm can deal with this, and more than anything, how the Gilded Gladiators can now bounce back from their loss yesterday. I think that's the most important thing for both of these teams, is how much have they bounced back and how much have they learned from their losses. We'll find out here in game number 1. It's the Gilded Gladiators, XIBALBA Storm, and we'll take it to the casters.
Thanks so much, J-Mac and Trelly. Our first elimination matchup of the weekend, SPL versus SCC. Both these teams trying to bounce back from a loss yesterday. You've got Frog, you've got Mifflin, and of course Doug taking us through the map. And these compositions, Mifflin, my eyes immediately go to the XIBALBA Storm because I think, you know, we saw a lot of success in some of these similar tools just in the last game. But now my eyes are ripped away because they're going towards the poll, where Twitch chat is favoring the SCC team at 56% to take this one.
SPL stock's at an all-time low, it would seem like. The Gilded Gladiators, of course, going to be a victim of that as well. But I think that this matchup has a lot of weight behind it, and that I expect it to go the distance. This is going to be a more evenly matched matchup. So the Gilded Gladiators, maybe best look we're going to have at them. But it's also a different look. The devs already highlighted. It's not exactly the standard composition, namely out of the jungle. Kyrmi has been the battery of the Gilded Gladiators all year long. Every iteration of this team has really been reliant on Kyrmi out of the jungle. So seeing what he can do on essentially a new pick is going to be very exciting.
Yeah, this Maman was not available the last time the Gilded Gladiators play, of course, before this tournament. It was just there for that qualifying tournament. And I got to admit, I'm not sure that it really speaks to me as a jungler that fits Kyrmi's playstyle. I think of him as, you know, a rat player. Of course, we've seen him on a number of other picks that, for whatever reason, cannot come to my mind at the moment. But, I mean, do you see his playstyle fitting into how Maman wants to play?
I mean, it's got high potential for solo agent playstyle, so the ability to 1v1 Ratmilk in the late game if we see that 4-1 jungle split that we so often do. I could see Kyrmi clearly winning out on that matchup. It's got good gank potential, decent rotations throughout the early. The only thing that might slow him down is that Kyrmi generally likes to play gods that can be pace setters before level 5. Maman Brigitte's got decent setup, but isn't exactly going to do enough damage on her own at this point in the game. You're generally looking at that 2-item power spike. So it's on the rest of the Gilded Gladiators to essentially hold their own until that point.
So small pressure here on the left side as well, and this maybe brings us towards the support side. I've wanted to talk about the prevalence of some surprising picks, at least for me this weekend. Charon and Maui, of course, both things that we've seen before. I'm surprised that Yamoja just made it through the pick and ban phase, and they've chosen to prioritize these picks instead. Do you think the Maui and the Charon bring some needed aggression into this role? It kind of takes quite a bit of damage on this right-hand side, but I mean, just maybe surprising on some of these support picks this weekend.
Well, for Hapn in particular, we just don't see him play Yamoja, and Maui has been his bread and butter for a few months now, so no surprise to me in the XIBALBA Storm support selection. And Jake has been the #1 fan, even in the title, of Charon. Loves going towards that pick. So it's not overly surprising. I think if we're going to evaluate the meta as a whole, Yamoja certainly has a foothold in it, but if we're talking about Jake and Hapn, this makes some sense to me.
I mean, definitely falling back to some comfort picks. We'll see some pressure on the right side as well. Ratmilk has hung out here for the last couple of seconds. As right as these blue buffs spawn, as we start to see if we're going to see a potential invade, if we want to see anybody step up, you have to think that Ratmilk has the favored pressure here just by nature of the Thanatos having the favor in the early game, but so far just a slower pacing to the game. Who do you think, just composition-wise, is more likely to take this first foothold? I say that, and it's going to be the Storm looking to try and invade this. Hapn will not be able to come away with it, but so far, not too much action in terms of anybody attempting to steal.
It doesn't seem to me that either of these teams necessarily need to get involved faster than the other. Both have got great scaling in the late game. Jangaru and Globe playing phenomenal late game hyper carries. Shipigami, Snoopy both doing the exact same. Compositionally, I think the Gilded Gladiators as a whole have got a few more strategies available once we start to see that 5-on-5 grouping. Just have Snoopy play elsewhere on the map. One of the primary strengths of Chernobog, but as far as the first 10 or so minutes, it's just about farming up, keeping your head above water, playing it safe. Ratmilk maybe will be able to set the pace a little bit faster than Kyrmi just by nature of the global in Thanatos' kit, just get involved in the side lanes very easily, but I don't think it really needs to.
Kyrmi, first one over on this right-hand side. The execute comes through early, but the damage, the dash is there. One more tick of damage, and Kyrmi's got first blood on a Tegveer.
Can't walk away from that one. Kana tanks up the tower incredibly well, and Kyrmi, relentless, keeps that damage rolling through. Once Tegveer's ultimate is down, there's no way for him to escape a situation like that. And this is one of the primary weaknesses we've seen in this new age solo lane build. I talked to some of the EU SEC guys, and they're like, yeah, I don't know what North America's doing with this Warrior Zax, Jotuns. It's so aggressive. You're not tanky. It makes it really easy for a jungler to roll through. Kyrmi does exactly that. And you can even see Kana going for a little bit more of a standard build in his first slot. I believe Stone of Gaia seems to be that bread and butter for King Arthur. Allows him to utilize that HP bar more so as a resource than something that needs to be protected. And will also play very well into the executes. Just keep him out of that range.
Working with Ratmilk, trying to answer back. The blink in, the ultimate, the execute is there. And Ratmilk able to answer back. So far, only the soul laners that have fallen down.
Well, not going to keep him out of the range just yet. Stone of Gaia, once it's fully upgraded, should help out a little bit. But Ratmilk catches him right before he's able to make his way back to base. And Kana falls down in exchange. Both junglers striking on that right-hand side of the map. Generally, we see these junglers play a little bit more so on the left side. There's just a little bit more value on those neutrals, but doesn't seem to be a concern.
Dash in from Kyrmi.
He's got him.
Got some backup here, and he might not even need it as the ultimate comes through, but he dodges it out, takes down Ratmilk, and now Globe under some pressure. Jangaru there for the help, and 2 fall down for the XIBALBA Storm. Gilded Gladiators, they even take away the blue buff. Kyrmi making it happen.
It's taking a fight on the left side as well. Hapn in a little bit of trouble. Does Snoopy have the damage? Hiding behind the Bastion. Hapn makes it out alive. Shipigami healthy, and he's turning it around. Snoopy knocked down. Focus the support. Get punished.
Snoopy taking a fight maybe a little bit too long there. You try and find the last bit of damage onto Hapn, but Shipigami, we saw him pop off yesterday, grabs another kill for the Storm.
Man, that is great stuff there. The Storm able to fight back at least a little bit on that left-hand side. Jake loves getting aggressive, especially in that first item power spike. Get some of that defense available, CDR in that first item as well. Allows him to throw around his abilities, just throw around some damage, but has really put him in positions where Jake likes to dive, and he's going to do it regardless. Drags Snoopy into a poor position, not quite able to secure the kill on Hapn, and Shippigami all the while full HP, just free casting. I was so tunnel vision on Hapn, I didn't even see Shippigami there, so clearly the Gladiators didn't either.
I mean, he still had the damage available, was able to pick up a kill over there. And now despite the action on the solo lane, maybe if you're the Storm, after losing out on a gank in the solo lane, you lose your jungler and your mid laner over towards that side of the map as well. And especially with beads being down from GIobe for the next couple of seconds, maybe if you're the Storm, you just try and play a little bit more passive mid and solo side. And if you do want to find the aggression, maybe you start to put that pressure towards Shiπigami.
Yeah, Shiπigami already starting to nurse a nice little lead himself, advantage in stacking as well as levels up against Snoopy. Jake is one that's really going to stick around in this lane for as long as he's allowed to, so we'll continue to soak up some of Snoopy's farm there. You can even see Hapn a little bit more often just hovering the jungle. Nice use of the Mescal Lua to get Shiπigami out of trouble, but the Gilded Gladiators, they came in with a strategy, and it's aggression and pressure, and they're playing with it on left.
Kyrmi here once again, looking for the pressures. Hapn stunned out, gets the jump away, the knockup lands. The wave is there for the fear, but the ultimate hits Jake and keeps him under the tower. Kyrmi on a killing spree is able to find the last hit. This time they'll take the support, but they'll lose their soul laner on the other side.
Double execute used on the right-hand side to match pressure with the Gilded Gladiators on left. That's twice now we've seen this play, though, from the Gladiators. Have Kyrmi walk into the tower, disregard any bit of damage around him, and trust the tanks will eat up all of it.
GIobe under some major pressure, and it's a dive there from the Baba
Yikes.
ultimate. Just barely, not enough to take down the kill. GIobe will find the survival under the tier 1 tower, but you can see how aggressive Kyrmi is looking to be, and he's been in all 3 lanes at this point.
And the Gilded Gladiators going for a blitzkrieg style of play here, keeping pressure all the way across the map. The Storm really are only playing on the right-hand side. Ratmilk not exactly present on the left, so it's going to be a numbers advantage for the Gilded Gladiators every single time here. Maybe they're caught off guard a bit, the Storm that is. Surprised to see the Gilded Gladiators play around that duo so much. You'd think you want to leverage the global from Chernobog, but instead they're playing around them.
Kyrmi on this left-hand side of the map again, and look how aggressive he's being. I thought he was going to wrap around the tier 1 there. Instead, just looking to take away some farm. But gotta imagine that the left side pressure may speak towards a Gold Fury pull eventually for the Gilded Gladiators. You're absolutely right. I have not seen Ratmilk really on the left side of the map at all outside of just picking up some of those camps. This time, though, Kyrmi still over here. They're looking to pressure the purple buff. Stun down, Hapn.
That's crazy.
Does not take it away, and they're able to secure it, but with GIobe on the rotation, and Jake pulled back. The ultimate hits, and Jake will end up falling down in trade for the invade.
I thought the Gilded Gladiators would all in a bit more there on Hapn once he gets aggressive. Instead, tried to just fully disengage, concerned about that mid lane rotation. Jangaru was not matching up with GIobe. But on the disengage, the devs talk about it a whole lot. The ability for Hapn to just throw out the hook and hold someone in place comes and rears its head there. GIobe lines up the Spear of the 9 Winds, and Jake just easy to knock down from that position. The Gilded Gladiators aggressive, successful in their purple buff invade, but at the cost of support, I'd rather see them play it a little bit more passive.
As we get towards the mid game, I'm looking at the composition for the Storm, and I'm seeing a lot of big ticket ultimates. And we just saw the Serpent of the 9 Winds. We mentioned it earlier, the double execute coming out here for the solo jungle dive. Even the landfall pulling back multiple members, but I thought Snoopy gets pulled back by it right now, and he's not got the dash available. Has to go into the Living Nightmare, down immediately. But the lack of cooldowns there, and they won't be able to continue the chase. It's Tegveer actually taking a ton of damage from Kyrmi, and the Glads come away with a kill.
Kyrmi is on a tear right now, a warpath, doing so much damage across the map. The Storm trying their best to go for counterplay, and this time it's the Gold Fury who's nearby from the Gladiators. It's just Jake and Jangaru.
I don't think he has the damage there, and the secure comes through. Serpent of the 9 Winds grabs the Gold Fury there, and Kyrmi trades a kill on the right side of the map. The XIBALBA Storm, though, able to keep it in range with the gold lead. Only about 1,000 down at this point.
Kyrmi, so far ahead of his direct counterpart, is doing immense damage. And one of the understated portions of Maman Brigitte's game is how much damage she does to neutral objectives. So Pyromancer, Fire Giant, they're going to be under threat. And at the pace that Gilded Gladiators is starting to set, I could see them going for some of those early Fire Giant plays that we've seen so far this week. 15, 16 minutes, somewhere in there, where they could really start doing a lot of that damage. There needs to be an answer to Kyrmi. It's either got to be Ratmilk using the global just to catch out Kyrmi as he's getting hyper-aggressive, or it's got to be Hapn lining up some of that CC. But you can't have what we have had, and that's just ignoring Kyrmi and trying to kill the people around him.
I mean, Kyrmi essentially walks out of base, grabs the farm that's up on his way to a gank. It feels like he's in a lane every other minute here at this point, just trying to put pressure, and if he can grab a kill, he wants to grab a kill. He's been involved in every single one now for the Gladiators. As a result, he does have a little bit of a shutdown bonus, so if they are able to take that kill, especially if Ratmilk is able to get that last hit, that might bring him back closer to parity. This now, though, 12 minutes in, Beacon first to spawn. Looks like XIBALBA Storm will not be in a position to contest it. And with both these neutral objectives being down, still a little bit too early for Fire Giant, the Storm now have a bit of a window here, maybe 2 minutes or so, to really try and formulate a plan of how they want to play around these neutral objectives the next time that they come up. I think that plan starts with Tegveer surviving, and I'm not sure he's going to be able to. Kyrmi is on a rampage.
Kyrmi's just making it all happen once more. And the Storm are playing very well around their vision, but they're not playing well around each other. They're not tracking Kyrmi on the map. So, if a gank were to go left, the Storm would be aware of it. But Ratmilk covering this side of the map isn't able to do anything about Kyrmi on the right. So it's almost a avoidance style from Kyrmi. Wherever Ratmilk is, I'm going to play. And I'm 3 levels up on him, so I'm going to play harder than he does. And this response of Ratmilk forcing a fight on the left because Kyrmi's on the right, or vice versa, just hasn't worked out because apples to apples, Ratmilk doesn't do the same damage.
He hasn't had the same impact, not able to pick up as many kills, of course, but now, maybe Awesome Jake in a little bit of trouble, surrounded by 4 members here. The ultimate comes through off the mark, but the execute hits, and Ratmilk takes down Awesome Jake. Man advantage now for the XIBALBA Storm, but with no objectives up, not sure they can do anything with that pick.
No, it's just about farming on the map, maybe stripping away any bit of buff that you can find, but nothing really for them to look towards just yet. Tegveer on respawn, might be on the chopping block. That's both his dashes.
Kyrmi in the vicinity once again. Blue buff available, though. Looks like it will just be the steal away for the time being. And I think Kyrmi is very cognizant as well of the risk versus reward factor at this point. Yes, he has a lot of presence on the map, but the shutdown bonus could be a lot if the Storm able to take it. Right now, it's the Storm stepping up to the Pyromancer. The Clans steal it away, and they grab the Runic Bomb along with it. All for the XIBALBA Storm. Take it away, but they didn't have the secure available.
Kyrmi is playing like a man possessed and wants to find a bit more on map. Stops the back from Hapn. Now XIBALBA Storm should be aware that there is presence from the Gilded Gladiators on the right-hand side, but with nothing to farm up, there's nothing to defend, so no grouping to try and chase out Kyrmi. Gilded Gladiators is doing so well with the pace now, having stolen the Pyromancer. I've got time to reset, maybe spend up some of that gold, get Kyrmi in position with that Runic Bomb, and I'd like to see them force the fight around that Oni Fury. XIBALBA Storm haven't played as 5 just yet, haven't stacked up the double execute, there hasn't been space created for Globe, so there's damage and outplay potential that we haven't seen, but the gold lead is now starting to balloon a bit out of control. The experience, primarily where I'm putting a lot of my heat, if you're going to have Kyrmi doing this much damage, someone's got to be able to answer it. I know I've said it 3, 4, 5 times, but it's still true. Until I see Kyrmi go down, I can't see the Gilded Gladiators losing a fight.
And with how fast his damage comes out, you really have to be wary of the Oni Fury falling. It's going down quickly, and the Glads take it without contestation. Kana zoning away 4 members here, and they got to be careful it's not an overcommittal as Globe gets dove onto the back line, forces the relics away from Kukulkan, and Kyrmi now comes under pressure. Ratmilk into the sky, not sure he has the aggression to go back in. Some low health bars there from both members. Ultimately, it's just the Gold Fury falling.
Storm get bailed out a bit there. The Gilded Gladiators had already cleared out the Gold Fury by the time the Storm had decided to take that fight. Are able to make it out alive, the Storm that is, but it cost them pretty significant resources. Blink off Ratmilk, Beads and Aegis in sync on Globe. So the Gilded Gladiators got easy targets to try and exploit going into the near future. A kill on a Globe at this point might just result in a Fire Giant for the Gladiators, so Globe's got to play very, very safe in his own backline. But he's playing this narrow, nice edge where it's, okay, well, I need to play safe, but I'm also the only one doing consistent damage on my team. How do I navigate that? How do I deal with this dive potential of Kana? How do I deal with Awesome Jake running me down at every opportunity? And it's not going to be easy. Until those executes are legitimately posing threats, until Shippigami's involved with some crit, I'm just not seeing it for the Storm.
With this level lead, this gold lead, starting to ask questions potentially around the biggest objective on the map. We've seen Fire Giant pulls around this time before, 17, 18 minutes, right? And at that point, right, Globe's Relics would still be down if the Gilded Gladiators want to force something. Do you want to see them force their hand even harder than they already are, or would you be more satisfied with them just continuing to keep up the pace and maybe wait for the next round of neutral objectives?
If the options keep up the pace, I mean, they're doing great right now, pushing their lead at every opportunity. I don't think anybody would hate to see the Gilded Gladiators do exactly that. Purple buff, invade successful, it seems to me. Excuse me, Hapn able to secure that one for his team. As the rest of the Gilded Gladiators hover nearby, SMITE Storm, they've drawn their line in the sand. This grouping indicates to me that they're not willing to give up too much more farm on map, even with Gold Fury off. It's that significant grouping on the left-hand side. You got to be careful, though. The Gilded Gladiators are very favored in a fight.
Yeah, it's a teleport out from Tegveer just to try and, I guess, start a fight around that purple buff. Maybe a little bit late to it, but here now for the beacon in the center of the map. A 4-man, 5-man grouping, but look at where Kyrmi is. He is all the way deep in the enemy jungle, completely behind Ratmilk, and forces him into the ultimate before anybody is able to get damage off. So now that useful tool, right, that execute there from Thanatos off the board, at least for the next couple of seconds. And Kyrmi, he hasn't stopped the aggression at all. He's just chasing down Shiπigami. He'll get the Aegis, he'll get the ultimate. And once again, another couple of valuable tools taken away from the Storm.
That's one of the most frustrating parts of playing against Maman Brigitte, is that she does not get any sort of movement speed negative for walking you down. It's just, I'm going to hold down W and deal all my damage all the while.
Aeromancer taking out Cxnnahh, zoning all the while, and looks like he might get traded, but a great block comes in. The peel is good from the Gladiators, and they lose out on the Achilles execute as well. Jangaru, though, gotta be careful. Beats get burned and pulled back. A great landfall coming through from Hapn, and they're able to take down the mid laner. Man advantage now for the Storm.
What can the Storm do with that advantage? They're low HP, Hapn's down to a quarter, Ratmilk resustaining, not exactly in a position to pull the Fire Giant with Globe on the left side either. This tier 1 tower would be great if the SMITE Storm could knock it down, but Snoopy, having made the rotation, might just put a stopper to that aggression as well.
Globe on the left side of the map. Just want to make sure Kyrmi can't push up for free. They do get that tier 1 tower, as you mentioned, so a little bit more map pressure. Will be harder for the Gladiators to retreat there. I mean, what goes wrong in the mid fight? Is it just they step up to block the execute and he's caught out a little bit too far forward?
They took a fight without Kyrmi. That's all I saw. Kyrmi's doing so much for this team. Taking an engagement without him's got to be ill thought out. The Gilded Gladiators is playing with a pretty significant lead, but so much of it is on Kyrmi that if they're taking a 4v4, a 4v5 elsewhere on the map, you're essentially playing a dead even game. You can fall into those trappings sometimes where you just look at the top of the screen and you're like, oh, we're 4,000 gold up, but it seems to me that Kyrmi's, what, 2,000 of it on his own? He is half of his team's lead.
That is definitely the pressure that we're seeing coming through from Kyrmi. He's been 3 levels ahead pretty much the entire game since that mid portion. Despite that, though, it's the Storm that are picking up the Primal Fury. 5 members here for this squad. They're missing King Arthur on the other side, and the secure comes through. The Storm grabs the objective, but a great stun starts the fight from Cxnnahh, and it's the full-on retreat if you're the Storm. Kyrmi slowed down a little bit with the landfall, and the ultimate coming through won't land the Living Nightmare next to any of those members, so it will be a full retreat, and the Storm get away with the objective.
Love that play from the Storm. The fact that the Storm are capable of making proactive plays from this position on the map just speaks volumes to the mental fortitude of this team. You can see Hapn going crazy in the player cams there. Shot calling, let them know we're still in it. It's just Kyrmi. Kill Kyrmi. We're back in the game, and it's the correct call. One pick on a Kyrmi is Fire Giant for the Storm. The Gilded Gladiators might be able to knock down Globe, but if it trades out even one, it would be so difficult for them to look towards that objective, and you're always concerned about the steal potential. Globe has biggest damage on map, and it's not particularly close. The Gilded Gladiators have a lot of objective burn, but not the secure.
We start to see this lead minimizing as the game gets longer. Still plenty of items to go through, still starter upgrades to come through. It's already come through for Awesome Jake, in fact, but if the Gilded Gladiators want to make use of this lead, it's got to be a play like this. Fire Giant picked up, and Snoopy and Jangaru on the damage. I'm not even sure the Storm know that this is happening. Tegveer sees the fire ring, but Frenzy gets popped. It would have to be a miracle steal, and he does not get it. The Gladiators take the Fire Giant on to 5 and are continuing the chase. Tegveer has to ult his way out of there, but it's just the disengage. Nobody around to fight. The Glads FG on 5.
The Storm just lose the thread there. Didn't have vision in the pit. Didn't quite realize the Gilded Gladiators had pulled it. You can even see that ward on the left side, bottom left of the Fire Giant, actually was completely avoided by the Gilded Gladiators there. Snoopy passed in through the right, so there's no way the Storm had any vision on it.
Wow, Shipigami, what are you doing up there, bud? He's at the enemy purple buff and just gets punished for it. Loses the ultimate, holds on to at least the Aegis. Didn't have the beads available, but I mean, you already have the Fire Giant for the Gilded Gladiators. Now you have an even bigger advantage on your siege.
Only 30 seconds till Shinigami's back on the map, so can the Gilded Gladiators get to a bird in that time? Tier 2 tower, dealt with expeditiously. But with Awesome Jake on the opposite side of the map, who's going to tank up the Phoenix? Who's going to initiate the fight? Who's going to carry the boats? Just got to wait. Push down the Tier 2 tower in mid, maybe regroup, go right, fall back Pyromancer. It's a very standard play. Extend your lead before you go for a committal fight.
Wow, blink in though from Kyrmi, and the wave to follow. Relics onto Globe, and Ratmilk blinks in, but the damage is unstoppable, and Kyrmi takes down Ratmilk. The punish is looking to come through, and Tegveer finds the shutdown. That might spell a fight start for the Storm as they take down the jungler, and the 1-for-1 trade forces them off the bird.
That might have been an overextension there from the Gilded Gladiators. You're allowed a few mistakes. You're allowed to mess up a few sieges when you've got a lead like they have. But had they just dedicated to knocking down the tower and then fallen back, gotta think they could have grabbed at least one more. Now it's the XIBALBA Storm in a position where they can at least threaten a steal. Not quite able to get there in range. So Pyromancer over to the Gilded Gladiators. Fire Giant power play, so there's plenty of time on it. Kyrmi, 20 seconds on respawn. Should be able to regroup pretty quickly. Do you have the damage to deal with Jake? Doesn't seem like it.
A little dangerous here. That stun might have been crucial if they wanted to take down Jake. A little bit off the mark there from Hapn. They will grab the beacon, though. The XIBALBA Storm certainly still feel pretty comfortable. I think stepping out on the map and having some of that proactive pressure that you were talking about, right? Despite this lead, I mean, it's still on to that idea that we came back to earlier, right? Now, Kyrmi has fallen. You've taken that shutdown bonus, still holding on to quite the gold lead, still holding on to a ton of damage in the back pocket. But if you're the XIBALBA Storm, he's now killable. And when you come to the sieges, that was something that we saw the Gilded Gladiators struggling with yesterday up against Hex Mambo. And in this composition, if you're the Storm, I'm not even sure you fight at this next Fire Giant. You have pretty good siege defense.
I don't know. Do you want to give up Fire Giant, though? You really only get that fight on Tier 2 because Kyrmi overextends himself. The siege potential to get a Gladiator is still pretty significant, and their ability to split the map, I think, is my most concerning factor. The 4-1 split is so often what we see at the highest level of play. 4 members push down left, 1 guy, usually the jungler, goes down mid. And then you have to evaluate, well, how does that jungle 1v1 look? Can Ratmilk keep Kyrmi out? Can Ratmilk just survive? Doesn't necessarily need to kill him. Can he just stop Kyrmi's pressure? And I'm just not certain that that's the case. And the primary strength of Thanatos in that 1v1 at times is his ability to just use his ultimate, Hovering Death, to escape. I don't think he could do that up against Maman Brigitte. Her damage being so delayed and so fast is ridiculous.
Look at this timing, though. Kyrmi in on the mid Phoenix. Ratmilk has back. Got to get here in time, though. And he's off the mark with the scythe. He hits a minion!
Yep.
And Kyrmi takes the 1v1, takes down Ratmilk, and actually finds the mid Phoenix. They might even be going for more. All the while, the Titans pushing down the right-hand side, the left side Phoenix, and they're preventing the backs as well. Jangaru with the ultimate. 2 birds will fall here. The Gilded Gladiators with the fantastic macro play. They're on the full retreat on the right-hand side, but it looks like they'll live over there as well.
Jangaru's got a lot of damage. If Jake can stop some more backs, I mean, it's not outside the realm of possibility the Gilded Gladiators win that fight 2v4. Call it a solid win across the map, though, with both mid and left Phoenix taken. Fire Giant on the men should be the next target for the Gilded Gladiators, and there's just no way the Storm can step up to this one. It's an interesting conversation to be had is, can you allow Fire Giant to go down from here? If the Gilded Gladiators get Fire Giant, do you just lose the game considering your base is already broken? And I think the answer might be yes. The Gilded Gladiators are in that good of a spot. So I would like to see the SMITE Storm Hail Mary play it. Just go in, take your fight in the jungle, leave it all on the board.
Looks like they're pushing up for maybe exactly that. The wave comes through, and a corridor gets trapped there for the Storm. Low health bars now. Tegveer has to back, but Kana and Kyrmi, they've got to back to base as well. Kyrmi with the blink away. And the chase down still there, huge from Ratmilk to find the execute, and now it's the Storm with the pressure around the Fire Giant. Snoopy will fall as well, and on a dime you find 2. If you're the Storm, maybe even looking for more. Jangaru loses the beats, but Jake finds GIobe, and you lose members on both sides. Nobody is going to have the power play here.
Beads Aegis off of Shipigami, so the Gilded Gladiators have an easy target going forward. That said, SMITE Storm get far more done than they should have been allowed to in that fight. I mean, the lazy back from Kyrmi, that's just hubris. Allows Ratmilk to find him. All you have to do is prevent the back, blink away. Only got him so far, and without Kyrmi, the team fight looks so much worse. I mean, he's got all of the kill confirmed pressure. Everybody else on his team is doing a good job creating space. Jangaru could do some poke damage, but if someone's going to get knocked down, you're looking at Kyrmi to get that done. Without him, you just kind of have to reset it. Fortunately for the Gilded Gladiators, they've got such a lead at this point that they're not exactly concerned about SMITE Storm pulling the Fire Giant, but this does buy time. And anything that extends this game at this point is just favoring the SMITE Storm. If you buy 30 seconds, it's a win for the Storm. If it's a 4-1 trade and the SMITE Storm lose 4 but their base stays up, it's good for the Storm. That's how late in the game we are.
I almost thought that Kyrmi could have gotten that back off. I mean, it was a dangerous one. Ends up blinking away, and Ratmilk with the huge execute to start the fight. But I mean, it almost felt like that was going so well for the Gladiators at first. You hit 4 people with that wave coming through from Awesome Jake, but just the poke coming through, the damage over the wall from the ultimate Kukulkan, and GIobe, as you said, has that biggest source of damage on the map. I mean, if you're the Gilded Gladiators, you're late enough at this point where, yes, you still have the lead, but full upgraded starters on the other side, it's dangerous to pull this Fire Giant. You're risking a steal.
So you got to play wary of it. Vision, as it stands, about even, checkered across the map. SMITE Storm is still contending with the poor map state, though. I've already got those minion waves pushed up on the left-hand side. So the Gilded Gladiators now have 2 opportunities ahead of them. They can throw their weight around and say, we're still 9,000 gold up, we should still have the advantage of the fight, and they go for the engagement. Or, what is more likely, we see them sit on this Fire Giant and enforce a staring contest until someone is forced back to base. There it is. Tegveer shows himself on map. Fire Giant's pulled.
They're on the Fire Giant. Let's go to a listening with the Gladiators. They look for the fight.
Man is in here.
TP'd out.
Can we kill Maui, maybe? Achilles TP. Can we back up again? He has to play waves again. Watch out. Both of our tanks are pulled. Can we help Chernobog? We're bubble ulting to peel them out. Jake, you're just to us, Jake. Their Titan's dying, by the way, in the mid-bridge wing back up. We're going to look to pull this, okay?
Yeah, I'm gonna back and TP.
No.
I'm gonna need X.
Pull this.
They're looking to pull the Fire Giant. Onus is still on the Gladiators. Ratmilk forced back to base so the Titan can survive with the low health bars. And the Fire Giant's getting low as well. The Glads secure it. But the fight on the back end happens in trouble. And Khan is low as well. Tegveer brought up into the ultimate, but the damage is there on landing. And nobody will end up falling. Fire Giant to 5, though, of the Gladiators.
But it extends the game once more. And because Fire Giant took so long, SMITE Storm should be able to keep both of their Phoenixes backing up. Last time around, we had seen the Siege. It was a much more off-kilter game. The Gilded Gladiators had a significant advantage. This time around, we're approaching 6-item slot for the majority of the Storm. A lot of those starter items have already been upgraded. Relics are in a much better position as well. This is going to be the most difficult Siege the Gilded Gladiators have had so far this game. And GIobe's damage has become a massive threat to the Gilded Gladiators. We've seen fights go well for the Gladiators, even in that last Fire Giant, where they force out the front line of the SMITE Storm. They've nearly got the kill, and then the tornado goes down between them in a narrow jungle path, and the Gilded Gladiators just have to ignore it. Oh, well, can't chase through it. GIobe's going to kill us. Someone's got to deal with GIobe now. At 0-2 and 3, he's finally become a threat at the 30-minute mark.
Definitely a target if you're looking for who you want to dive if you're Kyrmi. And Kyrmi's really been the focus of this game. 8-2, almost all of his team's kills outside of just 2 of them. He's been involved in 9 out of 10. Once you get to these Phoenix Sieges, it's harder for Kyrmi to get to the backline, though. That was something we saw in the last fight, him overstepping just a little bit, but as you mentioned, this is the split that could come through. This is a 3-1-1 here across the lanes.
Kyrmi lines up against Ratmilk, who learned his lesson, got a hope from last time. Needs to play very careful here. Solo lane matchup in the center of the map. Kana's just there to distract Tegveer, to bring him away from the engagement. Ratmilk fully disengages, allows that left side bird to go down. But because all three Phoenixes were up for as long as they were, XIBALBA Storm's Titan, which was around 30 to 40%, has regenerated a lot.
It's now healed a ton. Tegveer in onto defense here against 2. In execute range is Kyrmi. Has to make sure that he dodges the ultimate and is unable to, and will fall early on in the fight. Now Kana, the focus and available to be executed. Snoopy, he finds the ultimate over, but wants the 1v1. Happens to make sure it's not a 1v1 as Shipigami joins the fray as well. Look for the wave, and Snoopy grabs the support. Low health bars here as Ratmilk falls as well. They've got 2 birds down at this point. Globe, no relics left, and Jangaru's got a double kill. It's Thor versus the world. 3 versus 1 is Shipigami, the only member left standing here, and would have to find a miracle defense and will not do so. The Gilded Gladiators find game 1.
It took him 32 minutes, but the Storm finally found the answer to Kyrmi, and it's sick Tegveer on him. Unfortunately, an overcommitment into the chase towards the center of the map leaves them out of position, and the rest of the Gilded Gladiators step up to close out that game. But it was close. The SEC bears its fangs.
Yeah, there was some moments in that game where I got a little bit scared, admittedly, for the Storm when you had a 7-0 Kyrmi walking around the map. Certainly something that you're looking to change up maybe in picks and bans. I'm not sure if I want Kyrmi to have that Maman available again, but I mean, outside of, if Kyrmi doesn't have just the single player standout performance that he does, it almost felt like an even game outside of that.
It does, and it generally was, but because Kyrmi was having the hero play, it's not an even game. Kyrmi was there, was dominating the entirety of the map, and if you were to evaluate both junglers' output, one jungler had very, very low damage. That Thanatos did not find the value it needed to.
Yeah, Ratmilk maybe struggling a little bit on that pick. They banned away the Thor, and the picks and bans definitely looking to target out. And maybe it is a jungle v jungle matchup. I mean, do you think they take away? The Maman won't even get a chance to answer. We'll have to see how they adapt in picks and bans right after the break.
Of the universe inside of me, help me beat the shit out of my ego, please. Embrace the sunrise and the sunset and the time between them. Let us stay forever young and never die.
Welcome back to the SWC Worlds Qualifier Groups. Game number 1 goes to the Gilded Gladiators, and for the first time since our first set yesterday, the SPL have gotten a win over the SCC.
Let's
and that's
go,
just
baby.
Step 1 now for our SPL team here in this best of 3. It's J-Mac and Charlie here on the desk to help break down the game. And this one for the Gilded Gladiators felt pretty simple. It was early game. Kyrmi was the guy. Kyrmi was run him down, get those early kills, get himself up, I think 6-0 at one point. And then as we started transitioning to the late game, we started seeing it more fall into the hands of Jangaru as far as getting the brunt of that damage out there. And Awesome Jake starting to turn me back into the believer, at least as far as Charon's supports go. Hadn't really seen too much of it out of this weekend, but this game in particular, Awesome Jake looked fantastic on the pick.
So you are sold on the Charon now?
I'm sold on Jake's Charon right now.
Okay, we'll let Jake hold that one. But what I was really impressed with Snoopy late game because I wasn't quite sold on the Chernobog, right? This was a pick that I was like, are we done with Chernobog meta? Is it gone? Kyrmi carried the early game and said, don't worry, guys, I got you. But when late game comes around, I'm going to need some help. And that last fight, man, Snoopy absolutely popped off. There was twice where Snoopy made very, very impactful ultimates. There was once when Kyrmi was just split pushing up mid, tried to grab the mid Phoenix because there was a bit of a double down with both the Titans pushing up right. And he just goes in, and Kyrmi is able to grab the mid Phoenix, win the 1v1 with Ratmilk. But right as Ratmilk died, Snoopy ults in. Now you have two people. Why not grab two birds? Once you get two Phoenixes open, your end game becomes so much cleaner. And that last fight, Snoopy went in, pre-Aegis the Scythe, baited out so much damage. The juke shoes were insane. So I was very much impressed with Snoopy late game here. This was a pick that I didn't know was going to get online, but once it did, he was cooking.
Yeah, I think Kyrmi on the Maman also just shows a really great prowess on this god and shows that he can join up amongst the ranks of the Maman jungle players. I love what we saw out of him. Aggressive play throughout the jungle, dives under towers, even early game, that tier 1 tower dive, dual lane, netting him a kill, the dive over on the right side of the map under that tier 2 tower as well. And the answer for SMITE Storm late game was, how do we deal with this Maman? Kyrmi's just absolutely fragging. How do we deal with him? Well, they sent Tegveer to deal with him. But what did it cost them was literally everything else in team fights. If you're sending your frontliner to kill the one lone jungler, then you still got to deal with the damage that Snoopy's pumping out late game. You still got to deal with the damage that Jangaru's throwing out as well. So the Gilded Gladiators able to unify here, find themselves a win in game number 1. Now I need to repeat that because it is still elimination on the line. Now for the SMITE Storm, being one game down means one more loss. They're out of the tournament. They can find a win, push to game 3. That puts the backs against the wall for both these squads.
And because of that, I do need to see just a little bit more. The Thanatos, it was okay, but giving up Maman to Kyrmi when there clearly wasn't very many answers. I believe he was 7 or 8-0 at one point. Sure, he got shut down, and I thought that might have been the heads-up moment for the Storm. Like, we just got a 7-0 shutdown. We got so much gold in pocket. Maybe we can come back from this, but didn't happen. So best way to stop that is to not let Kyrmi get a character that can get 7-0 like that, or just not let him have that much early pressure. I'm hoping out of the jungle we can see just a little bit more from Ratmilk.
And now with the Storm being in that first pick spot, almost kind of forced the Gilded Gladiators to go with more of these standard meta bans where the SMITE Storm can go a bit more targeted or could be a bit more lackadaisical with how they want to go with their ban phase. So now it opens up the question of, do the Gladiators still put that respect to Ratmilk's Thor this game? Now that they are in that second pick slot, they have a couple of bans to deal with, and I'm surprised to see the Storm going for the Afro ban themselves here in second, because that now takes away one that may have had to be forced by the Gladiators to go for a ban, and it does leave open that option that they have the free ban to take the Thor off the table on the side of the Gladiators.
Yeah, it's possible that the Storm don't like that pick, right? It's not something they're interested in. They just don't feel as if the Afro, maybe they don't have an Afro player on their team, or just wouldn't bring enough to the table. They had to assume that this Thor ban was coming, though, so I'm very curious to see what the Storm opt to first pick, because they knew this. The way the bans have gone so far is, pretty normal. This last pickup from the Gladiators might be telling of what they're afraid of being first picked here from the XIBALBA Storm, but I'm kind of curious as to what their game plan was. Like, what did they design this draft to get in this first pick selection? Because if you're picking first pick, you gotta have that number 1 god in mind, right? Like we want Thor first and then go down, right? That's probably the way that they designed this. And of course, the Thor was not going to be on the table. You can see the Gladiators took that one away, but they are really holding on to this last ban here. Trying to think exactly what they want to give up and then what they can grab in return. Because remember, you get 2 picks immediately after seeing what the Storm go to. They're going to go with the Ganesh as to not give that up. We'll see. What is it? What is it the Storm that they really were trying to go for here?
we see the Ratatoskr picked up by the Storm. That's been Kyrmi's other god that he's played so far this weekend. That and the Maman have been Kyrmi's kind of go-tos. And now the SMITE Storm taking the Rat away, banning out the Maman. It will lead the question is what does Kyrmi go for in the jungle? But more importantly now, what do the Gilded Gladiators draft in that top 2 spot? Do you go for your Hunter right away? Considering how far down Chernobog has kind of fallen in priority, probably not something you need right away. Really only these SPL teams are kind of running the Charon right now, so maybe they wait on a selection like that. So where does that leave for the rest of your squad? Maybe something for Kyrmi right away, grab him and Jangaru's early picks, or could maybe even look to grab something over for that soul lane right away. Seems the Baba Yaga worked well for Jangaru, and the Gilded Gladiators might just want to lock that one in early.
Yeah, I don't hate that. The Baba Yaga looked real clean. It can handle early pressure very well with the extra healing that your passive provides, and of course late game. Gonna be swinging. I expected this Chernobog to come back again. It wasn't as if Snoopy was able to impact the whole map early on. This really was just 2 fights that I saw the Cherno really get value, but sometimes that's all you need, especially when Kyrmi is doing the most and just taking control of the early game. However, what did I say before, Picks and Pans? What will Ratmilk do to try and stop that? This Ratatoskr has the ability to just stop, you know, whatever pick Kyrmi goes to. There's not many that are going to have the early presence that a Ratatoskr has. So I already like the adaptations here that the Storm have made. But when you see Baba Yaga, when you see Chernobog on the other side, you need to be worried about letting this team get late game. So the Storm have to decide probably right now, are we playing to sort of just roll them over and not let this late game get online? Or do we want a 30 minutes plus game where we can match this pressure that the Cherno, that the Baba Yaga can really dish out?
Nike top 2. Not entirely questionable, but maybe a bit early for the Nike selection, but Kukulkan does make sense. I was wondering if we'd see Kukulkan or Thoth be the selection for the Storm's mid laner, considering Thoth has been left open now in this game, but instead it will be the Cuckoo back toward the mid lane, and then the Gladiators go for Daji with the Baba Yaga select, and I only say it because Jangaru has played the Daji once in mid, but unlikely we would see it in a big matchup like this one, unless it was something that was really in the pocket. So we've got the 3 primary bulk of damage dealers for the Gilded Gladiators. You got your jungler now for Kyrmi, drafting that one before the next wave of bans, so still looking towards support. Wouldn't be surprised if we maybe saw a bit of respect thrown towards Jake this time. Last time in game number 1, Storm banned out mostly Soul Lane, I think taking away the Sun Wukong and leaving eventually open the King Arthur for Kana. Would you like to see the Storm maybe take Jake away from the god, considering he's now had a few games of practice on that Charon?
I mean, if it's something the Storm are really worried about, but I like the call they're going for here, where just focus everything but support at this point. It's not as if, you know, the Charon is going to be game-changing. It is certainly strong, and of course, Jake feels very comfortable on it. So there is value in taking that pick away, but it seems to me they're more so looking at either A, the safety that Wukong provides, or B, the aggression that the Soba can. So hey, they're worried about beats, which makes sense. When you see Daji on the other side, you don't want that pluck coming through as well. You don't want anyone else that can burn the beads from Globe. That's not going to be a fun one. And as you said, I think everyone would have been assuming the car would have been on the forefront of Awesome Jake's mind, and that one gets picked immediately.
So now it will be Kana's pick left for last for the Gilded Gladiators. SMITE Storm still need their support, still need their Hunter, so dueling entirely. Just left for the final selection for the SMITE Storm. Think about what Hunters are open. On her got taken away, Hachiman as well, and then that Chernobog. So then we fall down to things like Rom, Heimdall, Ishtar has been a pretty relevant one that's popped up as well. So
This man's an Ishtar enjoyer.
still a few moments, or still a few picks, I should say, that are available to the Storm's Hunter for the support role. That's where it gets maybe a little bit different. So no Athena, no Ganesh, Afro, or Sobek. And now I guess also the Charon, because that got drafted away. We did see Maui before. Do you think that Maui kind of still fits in with the composition that the SMITE Storm is running? Doesn't matter. Instead, it'll be Ymir.
It doesn't matter, because the Ymir, I think, as far as just CC immunity goes, you're not getting much value there. I think it was just the wall gets a little bit of value here up against Charon. You know, Chernobog can sort of catch his dash in that instance, so both of which could have been an option. I really did think that Shiπigami would go towards that Ishtar again because he just loves it so much, but you know what he also loves is those Rama snipes, so being able to grab it towards the later end of the draft. I asked at the beginning, hey, are you going to match the late game pressure or just go for early? Seems a little bit of both, right? Ymir, I think, is another one of those gods like Rat that can bridge the gap between early game to late very well. Very strong, very threatening at like level 2, 3. But then you look at Kuku and Rama, and you're like, you guys aren't too worried about late game either.
Now it falls back to the Gilded Gladiators for their last selection. What will it be for Kana in the solo? King Arthur was what he played in game number 1. Played it yesterday, and he'll go back to it once more now for the solo lane selection. What is it about King Arthur, or maybe, you know, is it just a Kana thing? Is it King Arthur in general? What about it in this pick is seemingly more enticing for Kana to go towards his selection?
This just seems like a comfort pick to me, man. As far as the general solo lane meta goes, I think you can go to Arthur consistently if you like, if that's just a pick you like, but think about all the like Haddix, for example. He's a big King Arthur player. I haven't seen him look to a pick like that. You know, I'm sure it's fine, but this just seems like something comfort for Kana. It's not as if everyone is going to go towards this god, and doesn't have the worst matchup in the Nike, right? If you don't care much about knockups, you have abilities that you can just like, you know, kind of spin around or not care. I'm guessing that's the mindset. I myself, I'm not going to King Arthur, but hey, I'm also not Kana.
So for the XIBALBA Storm, got to find a win here in game number 2, try and push that third game, try and make it out of this initial elimination matchup. What is it for the XIBALBA Storm that they got to do to try and poke away at the Gilded Gladiators until they can find themselves a win?
In this case, I think the Storm need to get that early game rolling, right? They need to make sure that they are not getting, you know, behind 3,000-4,000 gold, letting Kyrmi get these big, massive leads. As far as Globe's positioning, he seems to me to be the main target of Kyrmi's aggression. You pick the Daji immediately after seeing that Kuku, so you're like, all right, this man gets 1 pair of beads, and I've got knockup immunity while I'm casting 1,000 cuts, so I don't really have to worry about Spirit of the Nine wins until late game, and I'm going to constantly hit the paddle to try and pull him, so Globe needs to watch the positioning, hold on to those beads. As long as that happens, I assume Kyrmi's going to spend a lot of his time near Kana, right? That solo lane is probably where the Daji's going to look, so you got a couple options as Ratmilk. Do you match that pressure and try and fight him, which is certainly possible. It's not as if Daji has the greatest early game into Rat. Being able to stun out 1,000 cuts certainly helps. Or just go to duo lane and say, Shippigami, we need you to get ahead, and we need you to stay ahead. I think both are viable. We'll just have to see how they're feeling.
Now, I think kind of talking about Kyrmi and where his priority has been on the map, a lot of his matchups as of recent has kind of been more towards that solo lane slant to try and get either Kana, get him ahead, or just make sure that Kana's not falling behind over there. So maybe we do see Kyrmi just stick to that side, and then that kind of response answer from Ratmilk is to maybe try and deal with that duo lane there. So I think the Battle of the Jungle is going to be a very important one here, taking the Ratatoskr away from Kyrmi. A strong start for Ratmilk, but now has to see what his execution is going to be like on this pick. When it comes down to kind of this early mid 2v2 scuffle, which of these kind of twos win out here?
I'm looking, I mean, it's honestly kind of even. Like the Baba Yaga and the Cuckoo, they're not necessarily known for their early game damage. They can clear, and then that's the idea, right? Like let's just clear and worry about that. It's more so the junglers that be facilitating that damage.
Ready to jump into game number 2 here. Elimination on the line. Can the XIBALBA Storm bring it back, or are the Gladiators going to send them packing? Let's jump into game number 2.
XIBALBA Storm with their backs truly up against the wall. Elimination on the line for the first time this weekend. You've got Frog, you've got Mifflin, of course Doug taking us through the action. A couple composition changes. We go into game number 2 here. The poll now favored towards the Gladiators. Just XIBALBA Storm have lost a little bit of that favor after the game 1 performance, but notably, a lot of that game 1 performance coming off the back of Kyrmi. The Maman getting banned away and instead going towards that Daji in the top half of the draft.
And looking at Kyrmi again, seems to me he's going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting once more. When I see Daji compositions, I treat Daji very similarly to Hunbots in that this is a god that is very much dependent on her ultimate, how much CC is she able to output. And it's a lot, but she's not burning beads and then making use of burnt beads on her own. So who's burning the beads for the Gilded Gladiators? Is it Kana? He could do it with his ultimate, but he's a soul laner and he's not going to be involved for the most part. And when he is, that's largely single target, unless you just get a really nice lineup. Is it Jangaru? I mean, maybe? Maybe if you're super lucky with that first ability. Is it Jake? Charon's not known for his CC. Is it Snoop? Absolutely not. So there can be some weaknesses in this Gilded Gladiators draft. Should they play from even or behind? From ahead, you're burning beads just inconsequentially because everybody's scared of all the damage you're doing. But from behind or from even, it's really just that Pal-Out that's going to threaten CC immunity. And there's multiple forms of it on the Storm. You're not all reliant on those beads every single time. Hapn can do it with his ultimate, Shippigami the exact same. So there are ways for the Storm to play around it. I'll be keeping my eyes on Kyrmi. He's got a lot of lifting ahead of him.
This first 10 minutes is going to be crucial for the Gladiators if they want to set the pace of the game. Last time we saw some of that early focus around the soul lane. This time, maybe we'll see it more focused around the dual lane. I think my eyes go towards this Ymir pick. We talked about, you know, maybe Hapn having some comfort on the Maui last game around. Is this another pick that Hapn is known to be comfortable on?
It's not one of his primary picks, but it's certainly something that is in his wheelhouse. It's a pocket pick for Hapn. And I agree with the desk that it's essentially just an answer to either the Charon. It's pretty decent into the Chernobog as well. You can catch Daji sometimes. She's got conditional leap with the Trickster Spirit, so I do like how Ymir plays, and any support with CCMU in the kit is going to serve you well up against a Daji.
A little bit of poke onto Snoopy, and you saw the junglers hanging around on either side of the map. Once again, just trading for that shield buff, grabbing the cooldown buff on the right-hand side of the map. Expect to see if we get any of that early action, once again, around these buff timers. And speaking of the junglers, we talked a lot about Kyrmi. Ratmilk has Rat. He's got the Ratatoskr, man. He has the namesake. That's got to be a buff, right?
I mean, it's also just one of his most played gods in the SCC as well. So one of his favorites, to be sure. I think a much more higher value pick at that. So I'll be keeping my eyes on Ratmilk. He had a relatively quiet game in Game 1, I believe. Crest that 25-minute mark with about 7,500 damage, so want to see a little bit more from him there. And he's got some decent targets. I'd really be keeping my eyes on Snoopy if I'm Ratmilk. That's a great lane to put some of your pressure in. Snoopy doesn't have great answers to the Rat either. Generally, it's going to be Dunk. We see Snoopy dash away, and then you've got Dart to chase down. So a lot of opportunities there. Otherwise, could rotate solo. This would be a good time for it.
Dart in from Ratmilk, stun off the mark a little bit, but it's Kyrmi looking for the damage
Yikes.
after the fact, and Tegveer is the one on the receiving end. You lose your soul laner for first blood yet again, and it looks like they're finding even more. That blue buff is under pressure, and they'll look for the invade. Looks like they find it as well. That is a spill for Tegveer.
That's so tough. Ratmilk, this is twice now where he's gotten first gank in the match, but gets immediately countered by Kyrmi. Kyrmi shows up second, punishes the overcommitment from the SMITE Storm. Tegveer able to leap away, but because Trickster Spirit was still available, an easy chase down for him. Even ticks over to level 5 off that kill, so Xnnahh allowed to stick around and keep that pressure up. Ratmilk maybe would have been able to go for that invade if Xnnahh didn't tick to 5, but he does, so has to go back to base himself. Tough stuff, man. That's really demoralizing as a jungler, especially when you think you've got as good of a lineup as the XIBALBA Storm did there. Ratmilk can't get dissuaded, though. Want to see him keep that pressure up, keep active. You can't let Kyrmi establish a lead like he had in Game 1.
And as you mentioned in Game number 1, maybe it has something to do with this itemization from the XIBALBA Storm soul laner. Tegveer once again opting to go into that aggressive item first. I mean, I know you mentioned some of the EU guys being a little bit mysterious about this. Do you like it as an itemization option, or do you think he should be going a little bit more defensive?
I generally really do like it, especially when your ultimate is as important as Sentinel of Zeus. Tegveer getting access to that secondary HP bar, essentially, off cooldown is going to be very, very important. So Jotun's Wrath first slot makes a good deal of sense to me. And then you've also got decent ability to poke out. It seems to me, though, that Stone Agaya is a great answer to it. If you're worried about Rend coming up every 8 seconds because he's itemized towards CDR and damage, you could just immune it by healing up passively the entire time. And that suited Xnnahh very well.
Kyrmi, once again, looking for pressure on this right-hand side of the map. Last time, it was a bit of the avoidance game, as we mentioned. It was like he was trying to find ganks wherever Ratmilk wasn't. And then the answer back on suitable sides of the map just wasn't there from the Thanatos. This time around, I'd be interested to see if Ratmilk, after that failed gank attempt on the right-hand side of the map, now that the blue buff is respawning, I'd like to see Ratmilk over here, maybe even GIobe over here for rotation, because I mean you see the grouping here, it's coming from the Gladiators.
Palal's a great defensive tool as well, though. Should be able to avoid a lot of that damage if Ratmilk and GIobe decide to initiate onto Kyrmi. Seems to me Kyrmi, Xnnahh. The Hunters have got 3 surrounding them. The Storm group up first. This presence should net them the blue buff. Jangaru just showed himself in mid, so the Storm realized it's a numbers advantage.
Do grab the blue buff, Xnnahh. Poking out a little bit, but that's because GIobe has found the pressure here in the mid lane. You hit the shots of Palau, you burn the beads. but no kill to be found there. Kyrmi, I like that he's at least got a focus. I was worried when he went away from the blue buff, tries to find something else, but good for Globe to be able to stay alive.
I mean, you don't exactly want Kyrmi committed to a 3v2 on blue anyway, so rotating towards mid, burning the beads off Globe, simplifies his next engagement. Palau should be lower cooldown than Globe's beads, so just rotate back through when you've got that ultimate available to you. Keep your eyes on Kyrmi and that blue diamond next to his name. Want to see him on top of Globe as soon as possible. Kukulkan has no inherent CC immunity kit, so the entirety of his survivability is tied to that first relic.
Interesting to see where he puts that pressure. Hopefully it is, at least hopefully for the Gilded Gladiators, he takes advantage of that relic being down. I mean, taking a step back, maybe not as active in the kills. Hold that thought. Ratmilk onto Kana here, off the mark with the ultimate, hits the stun, and it looks like they will have the damage there. The first answer back from the Storm.
That's one of the weaknesses of Stone of Gaia. It's great when you're just boxing in lane and trading HP back and forth. Not so great when it's a full-in commitment on the right-hand side. You don't exactly have the tank stats, you're not exactly leveraging the healing either, and you haven't got the same damage output as Tegveer. It's great in the 1v1. Get the 2 involved, though, and all of a sudden it looks a little bit worse.
Do you think he misses the Rat ult purposefully to not proc the knockup? Do you think he's that big brain?
I mean, he might have, but we also went for the leap from Tegveer, so there was a knockup regardless.
That's happened under some pressure on the left-hand side. We haven't seen these supports leave the duel lane quite yet, and it's been the Gilded Gladiators getting the better end of this one. About a half-level lead for both of those dual lane members, and that's what I was going to mention. Maybe not as aggressive when it comes to the kills. I mean, at this point, last game, we already had a killing spree, a shutdown bonus onto Kyrmi. At this point, only 2 kills thus far, but the Gilded Gladiators have been coming out on top with some of this neutral farm, with some of these stolen camps as well. And Kyrmi not being afraid to go in like that. I mean, he has this control continually. Once again, he's back here for the blue buff.
It's a really disrespectful Trickster Spirit. If Acorn Blast connects, Globe was close enough to follow up. Shippigami in trouble.
Great
Good wall.
Slows down the engagement. Got to dodge the wave. Not able to, but it won't be slowed down enough, and Hapn with the peel there makes sure Shippigami can live on that left-hand side, at least if he's careful. Worried about Awesome Jake maybe trying to grab the last hit here as he's pushing up, but with Ratmilk over here, shield buff should go down in favor of the Storm. They're able to get Shippigami out of there. We talked a lot about objectives in game number 1, and now that this Gladiators team has this earlier lead, 2,000 gold, some experience benefits in almost every role at this point, do you expect them to try and pull the trigger on objective a little bit earlier this time around?
I mean, they haven't exactly got a composition that's perfectly suited towards early Gold Furies. Confirmation on map still belongs to the SMITE Storm as Globe has gone back towards that Kukulkan. I mean, even steal potential from Shippigami on the Ram. Astral Barrage, not crazy for the steal, but considering Jangaru doesn't have a standard just 1,000 damage mage ultimate, still threatening enough that I think the Gilded Gladiators might think twice if Shippigami's alive on the left-hand side. So potential to pull gold, I'd much prefer to see the Gilded Gladiators, if they do pull gold, try and force the fight.
Kyrmi, he's just keeping up the pressure, constantly asking dangerous questions in the enemy jungle. Hapn, he's losing some health on the left-hand side, and it's the Gilded Gladiators once again in position for this, but they find the damage onto Kana, and they'll take down the second kill of this one. The ultimate over, though, Snoopy finds Ratmilk, and Tegveer now under pressure here. Damage from 2, and it should be enough. A double kill for Snoopy there.
Woo! Kyrmi narrowly avoids Globe's ultimate there. A bit lucky. Just out of range. Globe now in trouble. Stuck in no man's land between Kyrmi and Jangaru. Can he turn it around? The answer? No. Kyrmi just barely survives at sub 50 HP. Jangaru tanked up a few too many tower shots there. Zephyr might have been able to get at least 1 in return, but the Gilded Gladiators once more just playing hyper-aggressive and making it work. That's the XIBALBA Storm, though, deciding to get aggressive on right. Starts off with Ratmilk, ulting in on Kana. Successful, but at what cost?
You lose 3 members there on the right-hand side of the map, and a great answer back. And importantly, 2 of those kills go to Snoopy, who already had a little bit of a lead over there in that ADC role, but having your global pressure Chernobog able to show up to any fight with a 1.5, 2 level lead at this point, I mean, that bodes well for Snoopy and for them to fight pretty much anywhere they want on the map.
And the difference between Game 2 and Game 1 is that the lead is split on the Gilded Gladiators. It's not all Kyrmi. It's not all any one individual member. You've got a lot of it in mid. You got a little bit in the jungle. You got a pretty significant amount in the dual lane as well. So the Gilded Gladiators as a unit are much stronger here at the 11-minute mark than they were previously. The SMITE Storm much less favored in an actual team fight, which is why I want to see these neutral objectives pulled soon. You don't exactly guarantee yourself the objective, but you do guarantee someone has to show up and check it. Someone's going to have to show up and threaten that steal, and when they do, the chase potential to go to Gladiators, that's really one of the primary strengths of this composition. Awesome Jake's going to stick to you. Kyrmi's going to stick to you. Kana's doing the exact same thing. Snoopy with the global slow and teleport, all very dangerous.
Ultimate from Ratmilk, dash off the mark, but Snoopy CC'd, does not get to move. The peel's there for a little bit, and it's actually Ratmilk taking a lot of damage, has to hit the snipe, and does. You'll trade out Snoopy. Globe, though, falls in the mid lane, and all the while Kyrmi stealing away the farm. So you get a 1-for-1 trade, but it's still the Gladiators feeling like they're in control.
Yeah, no beads available for Snoopy in that fight, and hasn't ticked to 12 yet. If he had Aegis, might have been able to turn it around. There's a lot of damage coming from that Chernobog, but the return kill, Shippigami getting credit, significant to catch him back up in the lane. Tegveer, this is dangerous.
That damage from Kana shows up behind the Nike, and the ultimate gets used. The jump gets used, but it will not be enough to get him out of dodge. Kyrmi, once again, finding a kill onto the solo laner. 2-0-4 at this point. Once again, a part of every kill on the map at this point. And despite the lead not being all on Kyrmi, right? He was 2,000 gold up by himself in game number 1. He is still really entirely the one driving the lead. I actually have a replay of that kill in mid when we saw Globe fall down there. Jangaru and Kyrmi both here. You use the jump, you get a little bit of damage on the follow-up, pulling back, and that's clinical. That's the follow-up you need.
Catch Globe without his beads, and you've caught Globe entirely. This time, though, Globe having ticked to 12 will have Aegis, and beads are available. So a little bit more difficult for Kyrmi to reprise that exact same play. Gilded Gladiators in a very good position here. Pyromancer spawning up. When most neutral objectives are on the map, that does open the opportunity to the XIBALBA Storm to just go for the opposite. You'd likely see the Gilded Gladiators group on that Gold Fury first, unless they can find another pick in the soul lane or in mid. Then you're not exactly worried about an immediate turn and burn on the Gold Fury. So we'll see which one of those POIs entices the team with the lead. And it's a significant lead. 5,000's always been that alarm bells point in the game where things are starting to feel really one-sided. You can see it in the itemization. Kyrmi's finished up his tier 3, has serrated 20% pen, some lifesteal, a lot of tankiness starting to develop as well. Jangaru finishes up his prophetic cloak. And once that's done stacking, feels like Jangaru might just be unkillable.
Pyromancer picked up here and knocked down by the Gilded Gladiators. Nobody even in the vicinity to try and defend that Hapn. He's actually under some pressure, and he's got no tier 1 tower to fall back to. But it will not be enough damage from the Gladiators. Maybe not the damage they were looking for, though. This is a grouping. All 5 members here on the left-hand side of the map. Shippigami should know that this is happening, at least with the rooting. I mean, they are heading towards the Fire Giant. Hapn maybe looking to start this one up, but you see the pings coming out. The Gladiators, they know this one is happening. They're going to try and step up for it.
Kyrmi, no man's land, surrounded by 3, makes it up to the Powwow. Where's the pool?
Ratmilk so low up in the sky. I don't know if he can re-engage. They grab the Gold Fury, but Hapn is caught in no man's land. The ultimate peels for him a little bit, and the freeze slows things down. But they'll find the Ymir on the back end of the fight, and that might even open a window on the Fire Giant for the Gladiators to pick up.
15-minute Fire Giant pull. Globe, no ultimate available. Steal potential at an all-time low, but you can't let it go down. Not with the lead the Gladiators have. You have to fight here.
15 minutes in, though. This Fire Giant is not falling quickly. They've got to be careful of the health bars. Jangaru is the first one to fall. Tegveer and Ratmilk in the front line for the enemy team and just trying to survive. They slow things down, they find themselves a pick, and then it'll at least pull the Glads off the FG.
Great presence from GIobe. Not sure why Jangaru's the one zoning there. Plays himself pretty far forward. Not involved in the DPS on Fire Giant. Wanted to return damage, unfortunately for him. Receives it. Zephyr plus Tornado from GIobe essentially secures that kill in its entirety through the Aegis of Jangaru. And speaking of relics, it's a graveyard for the Gilded Gladiators. Only one relic available. Beads for Jangaru out of mid. XIBALBA Storm might be able to find some sort of opportunity around that. Keep your eyes on Ratmilk. If he's around GIobe, a dunk into Spirit of the Nine Winds combo might just be enough to secure a kill. And any pick here would be massive for the Storm. 2-3 kills, if they go unanswered, the Storm are right back in this game.
This is a tough lead to fight into, though. I'm looking at the levels. It's another 2.5, 3 levels for Kyrmi. A 2.5, 3 level lead for Jangaru as well, despite falling in that last fight. You're still holding on to that support lead. Luckily, I think during that fight, the entirety of the time, Shipigami was just farming up over on that left-hand side, so able to slow down a little bit of that ADC lead. But meanwhile, Hapn getting caught out a little bit here over by his own red buff. Up into the pal out, and CC immunity goes. A great wall to make sure he can survive a little bit longer, but Kyrmi with the Trickster's Spirit on a killing spree, 3-0 now.
Shichigami back to the split push, which means he's not here to defend. 5 members of the Gilded Gladiators threatening the Tier 2.
Tier 2, all 5 members, as you mentioned. Only 3 here to defend for the XIBALBA Storm, and they've got no chance. That drops instantly. And the global pressure there from Snoopy forces Shichigami away. And you don't even need to take this 1v1. Kyrmi's on the rotation. Just wait it out. And eventually, Kyrmi, Jangaru, everybody is on their way over. Shichigami, no way he makes it back to base. Best case would be a trade, but I don't even think he gets that. They'll get another pick on the left hand.
Does at least grab that Tier 2 tower, so a little bit of global golden experience for XIBALBA Storm, and exposes a Phoenix. That's the most significant portion of it. If you went out on a team fight cleanly, now the XIBALBA Storm have a way to break the base. But because Shichigami's death is so desync, the Gilded Gladiators allowed to reset themselves, regroup, head back towards that Fire Giant. GIobe on the way back to base. That's dangerous timing. Gilded Gladiators can pull this one.
All 5 members here for the Glads, only 2 for the Storm, and this time it's going quick. Hapn is there, and Kana in zone, trying to pop the frenzy. Tegveer gets in there, would have to be a miracle steal, but the Gladiators secure it this time around. And they're looking for the fight after the fact. Hapn pulled back in, and the target onto the support. They'll take down the Ymir, and they'll chase down the rest of the XIBALBA Storm. Tegveer, GIobe, Ratmilk, all on the back foot. And the Gilded Gladiators force everybody out and get Fire Giant on 5.
Simplified game now for the Gilded Gladiators. Fire Giant's the hardest objective to knock down. Now, you can just go ahead, grab the remaining neutrals on map, knock down the towers, put yourself in a really, really good position. Not that they weren't already, considering the gold lead as it is. Gilded Gladiators now, I mean, it's just W Key City. I don't see anyone doing enough damage to Jake to stop him from walking down priority targets GIobe or Shichigami. Kyrmi, it hasn't even come up. We've seen 2 or 3 pal out pulls. It's just been damage output from the Daji, and it's worked out beautifully for the Gilded Gladiators jungler. Keep your eyes, though, on the XIBALBA Storm. Shichigami, in particular, has got a good deal of damage to play with. We even saw Snoopy scared to take that 1v1 on the left-hand side. Instead, waited for his entire team to rotate through. So, some threat for the XIBALBA Storm to rally behind, but it's single target for the most part. Maybe if Shichigami can grab like a luxury 6-item Odibo, might help out a little bit in that AoE department, but that's a ways off.
And we saw it a few times in our first set of the day. One Kukulkan ultimate can completely change a team fight. You've got the walls that we've seen be impactful from Hapn in small moments in these fights. They've got the tools to potentially try and fight back here. With 2 Tier 2 towers available, though, the Gilded Gladiators still have much to siege ahead of them. And Fire Giant, pre-20 minutes, I mean, they've got to use a lot of their lead to push down and continue fighting. The fights change a little bit on the siege as well. I mean, you're looking at the defense for the XIBALBA Storm. Do you think they even try to put up a fighter on the Tier 2s, or should they back up to the birds?
Well, you don't want to dedicate to a fight, but you can certainly slow down the siege. Throw some tornadoes at the wave, make them think about it a little bit, but don't get picked and don't put yourself in a position where you have to dedicate to the engagement itself. Unless you can find a pick on right. Keep your eyes on Ratmilk, considering a fight up against Kyrmi. Kyrmi should know, though, that there's a numbers disadvantage here.
Blink in, won't find the stun, but forces the pal out and forces Snoopy over to
Yikes.
the fight. You lose your ADC on the Phoenix damage, and Kyrmi, no! One auto does it, and a Rampage keeps the jungler alive. The rotation from Kana, from Snoopy, help out Kyrmi, and Ratmilk's the one to fall.
The jungle gap is just ridiculous. Kyrmi rolls him and smokes him. That's not allowed to happen. Ratmilk needs to hit that ultimate. It's completely different if he does. Kyrmi dies to the damage through the ultimate of Ratatoskr. Instead, just falls down, and there's nothing in response. The Gilded Gladiators keep up their siege.
Now a man disadvantage here on the right side Phoenix as Kyrmi walks back from base, full HP now.
Is he laughing?
To help out his team. He's looking for a pick, though. He's all the way behind. He's alone again, though. Got to be careful he doesn't get caught behind a wall by Ymir. But I'm a little bit surprised they didn't try to continue the siege. Felt like they had an opportunity there on the right bird.
Yeah, but had to have Kyrmi go back to base. Maybe don't want to play without him. He's the runic bomb holder as well, so no true damage to knock down the structure. And the Gilded Gladiators, no stranger to this position, have struggled to close out games in history, so take it a little bit slower against their SEC opponents. The XIBALBA Storm happy to have the opportunity to slow things down a bit as well. And the level disparities have not gotten much better. Fortunately for Ratmilk, Kyrmi can only be 20, not going beyond that point. Unfortunately for Hapn, Awesome Jake's still a little ways from 20 and is already nursing a 5-level lead, so the tankiness of the Gilded Gladiator support cannot be understated. I just don't think there's enough damage on the XIBALBA Storm to knock him down unless it's all 5 of them hitting him.
Yeah, that level 13 Ymir is going to be tough to stand up in a team fight. You were going to get shredded down. Items still coming through. I mean, at least he's level 12. He's got the second relic, but not upgraded quite yet are those relics. You got to start thinking about the next couple of objectives. Really just the next one on the horizon, right? This Fire Giant. Still very early in the game, right? Not really thinking about EFG at all yet at this point. But, I mean, I think they're thinking a lot about the defense as well and how difficult it might be to fight into this lead. Just another regular Fire Giant. Do you try to step up here for the Storm?
I think you let this Fire Giant go. The Storm's neutral territory team fight has not looked great. And it's hard to say because when you look at the composition, GIobe and Hapn, Kukulkan and Ymir, both great at jungle corridor fights. Not exactly in a position to leverage that considering how far behind they are. They need the damage of that unofficial 6-man in the Phoenix or in the Titan. So play it a little bit further back, rely on the fact that it's not an enhanced Fire Giant, so it's not the end of the world just yet, and pray that you can withstand this Storm. The Gilded Gladiators, though, I mean, their siege is just good. Considering Kyrmi's been able to split the map, and even in a 2v1, it's never really a true 2v1 with Snoopy's global on the map, but even in the 2v1, Kyrmi able to return so much damage. I just gotta think that it's going to be a 4-1 split once more, and whoever the one is lining up against Kyrmi is just going to struggle.
It's been Ratmilk traditionally that's been wanting to take this 1v1. We saw it in Game 1 as well, a struggle on the Thanatos versus Maman matchup to try and find an even 1v1, and it's been Kyrmi coming out consistently on top in both of these games. So maybe you try and send somebody else. Maybe you try and put Tegveer in the face of Kyrmi, but I mean, there has to be some sort of answer as the Gilded Gladiators set up for a siege. Can't help but notice, though, Kyrmi's not here. Kyrmi's clearing the wave on the left-hand side of the map, and this is what we were talking about. This split coming through, I mean, do you split both side lanes and put Kyrmi that far away from the team?
I mean, you can. The entirety of the Gilded Gladiators are ahead this time. It's not just Kyrmi. Generally, we'll see a team, when they realize one person is that split off, try and all-in initiate on the opposite side of the map, but the Storm is so far behind, it's not even an option.
Kyrmi in on the left-hand side. Nobody's there to answer him, and nobody finds an engage on the Gladiators either. He just walks in and takes the left-hand Phoenix, and the XIBALBA Storm have not been able to do anything to defend here. GIobe's taken half of his HP for just sticking around, and now you have all 5 members still here, still strong, and still a runic bomb in the pocket of Snoopy to push down either of these birds. A blink in, a dash through from Kyrmi onto GIobe, and he's taken down just in the blink of an eye. Kyrmi is being targeted out in the back line as well. Ratmilk shuts him down, but all the while the rest of the Gladiators are on the objective. Mid Phoenix falls, and Chxnnahh doing a great job of zoning out the rest of the team. This could be a chase, though. Storm gotta be careful if they want to try and answer back. They have to go quickly, and Jangaru, he might be caught out.
Should have the leap available, pre-beads to prevent any CC,
No!
but doesn't make it over the wall.
He doesn't get over the wall, and the stun comes
Doesn't
through.
matter.
It's a turnaround, and the damage rips through the fight. Chxnnahh finds Hapn, and the wave grabs Tegveer. It's now only Ratmilk and Shipigami surviving for the XIBALBA Storm. 4 members strong, but no jungler, no Kyrmi available. Waves pushing in, and they're looking for the end. Globe gets taken down right as he spawns. Ratmilk gets taken down by Snoopy, and it's only Shipigami here to defend. Half health on the Titan. Waves are a little bit too much for you to handle. Jangaru with the double kill, and the Gilded Gladiators will move on.
Call it calculated, I suppose, from Jangaru. Doesn't make it over the wall, does deal the damage, stays involved in the team fight, and lo and behold, late game Baba Yaga with Prophetic Cloak, actually pretty tanky. Wasn't able to knock him down in the storm. Knocked out. Gilded Gladiators, that's 1 for the SPL. Or 2, I guess.
Yeah, they take it 2-0. They take the first win since yesterday, and they push themselves on to what will be a qualifying match come Sunday. That does knock the XIBALBA Storm out of the event, though. Hard fought for them, but I mean, what can we say about the Gilded Gladiators? I was a little bit worried after game number 1 that it was a little bit too much on the back of Kyrmi. But in game number 2, like you said, the lead's not just on Kyrmi. Everybody's stepping up across the map. And I think they look pretty clinical for the Gladiators.
The lead may not have been entirely in Kyrmi's pocket, but it did come entirely from Kyrmi. He had 100% kill participation for the first 15 some odd minutes of this game, involved everywhere on the map, preventing Ratmilk from finding those gangs. And it seemed to me that Kyrmi was in Ratmilk's head. I just didn't see great plays from Ratmilk there. He was just caught out every single time. Even when he was going for ganks, Kyrmi's just hovering around the wall like a little goblin waiting to catch him.
Like a little goblin just around. Yeah, dude, Kyrmi was a menace in that one. He was always on the enemy backcams, always on the blue buff, stole away the red buff. I mean, and that's what you need, is a driver of this team. The Gladiators, ever since they made the roster change, they've needed a driver. Kyrmi shows up in this one and keeps the Gladiators' hopes alive. That'll do it for me and Mifflin on the cast. We'll throw it back to J-Mac and Trelly on the desk.
That's right, the Gladiators safe from elimination this time as they knock out the SEC contender XIBALBA Storm, now out of their chance of qualifying to the SWC. But it's not the end of the road here for the Gilded Gladiators either. They still got quite a path ahead of them, waiting out who the loser of the top side of their bracket is going to end up being. But getting that first big win here is a major step now for the Gilded Gladiators, and I think the cast has put it right. A great start of this game, dictated by the pacing of Kyrmi on this dodgy, similar to how we saw him in game number 1 on the Maman, able to really control the early pace in this game. And then once you get to the late game where maybe the damage or the CC isn't as relevant on that god, you still have plenty of backup in your carries.
Yeah, I was a big fan of the dodgy play. I didn't know how well it was going to, draft up into this competition. We knew Globe would have a problem with it, right? The Cuckoo was a good target, but besides that, I wasn't quite sure how much value Kyrmi was really going to find. The Pala was hitting, sure, but it was really the damage that Kyrmi was able to put out that facilitated that early game and really bridged that gap to just let a whole team there pop off towards the end. There was a couple, and I got to echo what Miff was saying. It did seem like Ratmilk just couldn't really match up. Maybe he was in his head, but there was some missed dunks, some missed acorn blasts, things like that. Can't be happening when your Worlds qualifiers are on the line. Still, though, a great tournament played by the XIBALBA Storm. I think, being as low-seeded as they were in the NASCC and making it this far, you got to give them some props.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Storm was 6th seed. If not, then they were the 5th seed whenever they came into the qualifiers. Make it through to be one of your top 2 teams from North America, and now make it all the way through to this event. So props to the XIBALBA Storm for as far as they made it, but their journey ends here to the Gilded Gladiators, able to punch themselves now into a qualifying position. Again, still waiting for a loser on the top side of their bracket to see who their opponent is going to be. For the Gilded Gladiators, I think this is a major step up and a major improvement for the team. I think the communication, when we got to listen into them during this set, sounded much cleaner than it did yesterday. You're starting to hear more than just Kyrmi's voice popping through the communications, and it sounds a lot more decisive, saying, we're going to go here, we're going to do this, back away, don't step too far forward. So loving to hear the improvement on communications from this team and just really their play on field as a whole of the unit.
bro, 20k on Daji is wild. She has no poke. It is all in. Like, that is Daji's kid. It's just all in damage. And that just goes to show exactly how much work he was putting on. Shouts out to Kyrmi, man. This is a game that they definitely, the Gilded Gladiators needed to win, and they needed to win it cleanly just to build some of that confidence back. But at the end of the game, beautiful stat lines to just about everyone. Kana takes, double his team's deaths, but it's just 2. So not bad at all here for the Gladiators. This is the exact step in the right direction. This is what we've been talking about, what we needed to see from them, that clean early game. Transition that into your easy fire giant fights, that sort of thing. And their sieges look clean as well. I think the entire team is just looking exactly what we wanted. So that's a good sign, because they're not there, as you said, their tournament journey is not over yet.
Yeah, it's the first step now to seeing if they can qualify themselves up to the SWC. The Storm have been knocked out. The Gilded Gladiators move on, and we've got Jangaru, the mid laner from the Gladiators, standing by for our post-game interview.
That's right. We've got Jangaru here. Congratulations on the win up against the Storm. First and foremost, you guys obviously coming off a loss yesterday, didn't feel great. Have to feel a little bit better after the win. What were the vibes like, the energy in the booth after the win?
Definitely, I would say it's actually the same, but definitely more proud of ourselves. I feel like we're not really a team to really get down. We just want to improve as much as we can. I'm glad that we can at least show today that we aren't, just going to fall down. We always get back up regardless of anything. So I think it was definitely way better today than yesterday.
That mental fortitude, you guys definitely showed it today. And I think I have to ask about Kyrmi, because in game 1, he plays the Maman. He runs them over with a truck. And then in game 2, even, the lead wasn't all on him, but it still felt like he was the driver. He was the one basically pushing all of your aggression. Is that the role that you guys have been needing out of him, to just be sort of the driver of the team's aggression?
Yeah, that's the role that I think he likes to be as well. So we just try to help him as much as we can. We get him ahead, and he'll just say, guys, get me ahead, let me carry. So that's what we try to do. If he's carrying, that's less work I got to do.
Definitely a good attitude to have. Have to ask you about the rest of the weekend. You guys have guaranteed yourselves a qualifying matchup come Sunday. Going to be against the loser of the Ravens versus the Mambos. So still 2 tough teams. How you guys feeling going into that? Is there anybody you would rather play, or what are your thoughts on the match on Sunday?
I do think I won a rematch against the EU team yesterday. That would just, I guess, personally be something I would want. I still feel confident going into both. As long as we played as good as we did today, improve as much as we can as well going up to our next match, I think we'll be good to go.
Good confidence coming out. Once again, congrats on the win. That's Jangaru. We'll throw it back to the desk.
Just thinking about that, a rematch against the team that knocked you down to the lower would be one nice way to try and qualify up to the SWC. A story that you can have to say, hey, you beat us once, but you got to be able to take us down in a best of 5. And I think that's maybe the difference between these SPL matchups and the SCC is all the SCC stuff's been best of 3 all the way through. These SPL teams have had that time. They've had that practice playing these full best of 5. So we'll have to see how the Gladiators can do. And now we can take a look, though, at our brackets for the event so far and what you've missed out on in our first couple of days of play as of late. Gilded Gladiators did fall down to Hex Mambo in day number 1, 2-0, but now find themselves 2-0 over the SMITE Storm, who is the first team out of the SWC group stages. It was a good run for the SMITE Storm, but unfortunately for them, it ends here. And now, as mentioned, the Gilded Gladiators await their opponent between the Ravens and Mambo. Winner of that matchup qualifies to SWC. Loser then faces the Gladiators to see who will be the second team of the group from Group A to qualify out. But it's not just Group A. We still have 4 other teams over on the opposite side of the bracket. We can take ourselves a look at Group B and see what the path still remains for them. We'll have our elimination match coming up next, and I think this is the big one that really got a lot of head-scratching going on. We have 2 SPL teams up next, Camelot Kings and Eldritch Hounds, guaranteeing that at least one SCC team will be going to Worlds through this bracket, because one of these SPL teams is going to be going home after this one, Trelly.
Yeah, a lot on the line. Nobody wants their journey to end, but unfortunately, this is the position you've been put in because you couldn't win that round 1 matchup. So we'll have to see. That's going to be one where I think both teams, they're not going to be as confident as maybe they once were. Falling down in this position is nowhere that the Kings or the Hounds wanted to be in, but unfortunately for them, only one can go on.
Man, just thinking about even just the general storylines for some of the players on the Hounds and on the Gladiators. These are teams and players that missed out on a chance at Worlds last year because some of the EU teams had knocked them out during that qualifier. Right. Now, again, backs against the wall, potentially being knocked out here. And even just thinking about the side of the Camelot Kings, if the Kings don't make it, this is the first year since Worlds ever started that Captain Twig would not be at a SMITE World Championships, which is unheard. He's been at all 9. This would be the first one, if he loses out on this set, that he does not make it to the SWC stage. So there's a lot on the line for both of these two teams. One SPL team going home. That's coming up in match number 3 right after this break.